The next thing you know, I feel a grab on my right side. So I quickly turn to look at what this is. I initially think this is probably Ken's camera bag, but to my surprise, it's Donald, and he's standing 1.5 feet away from me, so his hand had to reach out and touch me. I look at his face, he's looking stone cold, just stoic at Ray Charles, and I stand there, I'm stunned. I'm speechless. I don't even know what to do or say in that moment.
Just to clarify, so he grabbed your rear end?
Right, on the right side.
That was one of at least 15 women accusing President Trump of sexual misconduct. Her story, alongside all of the others, appears to describe a pattern of behavior. The LA Times summing it up this way, quote, "They say he grabbed their breasts and genitals and kissed them without permission. Beauty pageant contestants say he strolled uninvited into rooms where they were naked and vulnerable. None of the women is hiding behind anonymity. They are on the record. The White House spokeswoman has said they are all lying." Our panel is still with us, along with Ashley and Joyce. I mean, Melissa, as a woman sort of living through this Me Too moment, it seems like the worst thing about it is you feel blindsided when those who are accused are people that you knew and you didn't know the side of them. The best thing about it is that women who've been victimized finally have a wind at their back to seek justice. How is it that these women, and as the LA Times, that was a piece by Robin Abkarian, who's written about this in a really smart and comprehensive way, these women have the same kind of graphic details that we read in the Harvey Weinstein accounts, that we've read in the accounts of other men in entertainment, in news, in the restaurant industry. How is it that their word ends up with no result?
And I think that that's indicative of where we are in society, right? As someone, as hard as it was for me, someone in leadership, to have to publicly say that I was a sexual abuse victim when I was younger, it takes courage to say that. You could see how this woman was having difficulty and feeling ashamed. You know, we've been made to feel ashamed, made to feel that we have to be silent, that we have to take ownership or responsibility for what happened to us, that somehow it's our fault. That's historically the way. So we are at a moment which I think is very empowering for women, and I think I'm hoping that we can move to the next phase as a society. We are treated more equal, that we are purging ourselves of this misogyny, of this patriarchy that is historically there and embedded in our institutions, and that women are finding the strength to find their voice. And I think that we have to stand with them, because I do see the shift or the dichotomy within the politics and the culture. Culturally, we seem to be moving forward. Politically, we don't seem to be. And why is that happening? So it's a very, for me as a woman, I feel empowered with the possibility of what we can achieve and how we can move forward.
Ashley, the president, when he's mad about the Russia investigation, he's found his targets. The media, the FBI, which he describes as being in tatters at best, corrupt at worst, Bob Mueller, and his own attorney general, Jeff Sessions, hasn't been spared from the president's rage when the Russia investigation has continued and intensified and gotten closer to his family and him. Who will the targets be of his rage? We saw that the first today was Senator Gillibrand. He's called the accusers. The White House has actually carried his message of calling them all liars. But who will the daily targets be as the Me Too movement continues to press forward and the president continues to deny these allegations?
I think you'll see a couple of targets. One we saw, or two actually of them we saw in his tweet this morning. One, again, is the media sort of saying it's fake news. It's the media trying to gin up false allegations against him. And then I think the second will be these women themselves, either women who are accusing him of things or women like Senator Gillibrand who are critical of him. In her case, she called on him to step down because of the sexual harassment charges he's facing. But he's proven that he's called himself a counterpuncher. He loves a one-on-one fight, and he seems especially vicious when it comes to one-on-one fights with women. We see this with Senator Gillibrand. I would point you to Megyn Kelly, that exchange, that back and forth during the campaign. But there is often sort of an extra edge when he's fighting against a female protagonist.
Joyce, is there a legal risk to counterpunching someone who has accused you of a crime? Is there legal exposure for someone who punches with an edge and seeks to further disparage. I know he's being sued, I believe, for defamation, and the LA Times posits a theory. Trump lawyer presses argument for presidential immunity in defamation case, quoting a Georgetown law professor who says, for those people who are interested in this case as a path to impeachment, the chances of perjury in a Trump case are possibly greater than in a Clinton case. Testifying in a lawsuit takes a huge amount of discipline. If there's one characteristic that seems to be absent from the Trump personality, it's verbal discipline.
Blame the victim is always a dangerous strategy, particularly for a public figure. And the president, and you know, we've seen this in the Russia investigation, where if he had simply abstained from tweeting or abstained from talking to Lester Holt, he would be in a lot less trouble than he finds himself in now. The same, I think, will be true as he engages particularly on the specific allegations women have made against him. Because these public statements that he makes could end up being admissible in court. They could, as you point out, be springboard for perjury accusations, either after he leaves the presidency or potentially as part of impeachment proceedings. And in the cultural moment we're having right now, where women's voices are finally being treated with the respect and the dignity that they deserve, that may be what stands up on the Hill at the end of the day.
And Steve, it seems ironic that for all the attention, there's been a year of intense focus on Russia. The speed, the velocity of the Me Too movement seems to have brought this White House to its knees a little faster even than the questions about Russia.
I actually think these two stories converge in this way. We have three things going on. There's a three-pronged attack emanating out of this White House. And the first one is an attack on truth. Right? The redefining of truth to what is true is what the leader says is true, no matter what is before our eyes, whether it be the crowd-sized pictures or the evidence from his own words about his piggish behavior with women. Then we see an assault, an attempt to delegitimize one of the two arbiters of truth in our democratic society, the news media. Fake news, that attack. Right. Abetted by a news network that has essentially become an organ of state media that deliberately, premeditatedly lies every night to the American people to advance Donald Trump's political agenda. The other prong of the attack is on that other institutional arbiter of truth, the justice system. Right. So the attacks on the FBI, the attacks on the federal judiciary, this is all part of a deliberate, systematic effort that, should he decide to fire Robert Mueller, that he'll be supported by the Republicans, and that we may well see a constitutional crisis in 2018, because all of these things coming together to lay the groundwork for his firing of the special counsel, to delegitimize the testimony of these women. And so what's being tested here is the very idea and concept of truth. And in fact, is truth objective or is it subjective? Yeah. And is it subjective through a political lens?
I don't think an authoritarian regime.
I don't think we should be naive, though, about his willingness, to smear these women, to attack the women. You know, look what's going on down in Alabama. You know, you have two different responses from a lot of the more supporters, that the women are obviously bought and paid for, they are lying, or they may be telling the truth, but we don't care because some ideological issue is more important. I would expect that you will see that template. And by the way, just parenthetically, please, no more Gloria Allred being involved in this particular
That's not a bad idea. Just from you mean from a credibility? I mean, she does help women.
If I'm Donald Trump, I want Gloria Allred to be my target.
Right. Okay, we're just hitting pause. Ashley Parker, thank you so much for spending some time with us. When we come back, Alabama has a